Science pushes boundaries. That's the whole point. But sometimes scientists push so hard, they cross lines that shouldn't exist, conducting experiments so dangerous, so ethically questionable, or so catastrophically stupid that they've haunted humanity ever since. We're talking about research that killed people, created new diseases, threatened entire cities, and in some cases, nearly ended the world. These aren't cautionary tales from science fiction. These actually happened. So buckle up, because we're diving into the most dangerous experiments ever conducted. And trust me, some of these will make you wonder how we survived as a species. Number 1. Castle Bravo, the nuclear accident that poisoned an ocean. March 1st, 1954. The United States detonates a hydrogen bomb at Bikini Atoll in the Pacific, expecting a yield of about 6 megatons. They got 15 megatons instead, the largest nuclear explosion ever conducted by America, and absolutely nobody was prepared. The blast vaporized 3 entire islands, creating a crater over a mile wide and 250 feet deep. But the real horror show was just beginning. Scientists had catastrophically miscalculated the fusion reaction, and the explosion was 2.5 times more powerful than predicted. The mushroom cloud reached 25 miles high and 62 miles wide within minutes. The fallout, a deadly snow of radioactive coral dust, spread across 7,000 square miles of the Pacific Ocean. A Japanese fishing boat, the Lucky Dragon, was contaminated 80 miles away, well outside the designated danger zone. All 23 crew members developed acute radiation sickness. 1 died. Islanders on Rongelap Atoll, over 100 miles from the blast, were covered in radioactive ash. Children played in it, thinking it was snow. They suffered radiation burns, thyroid cancer, and birth defects for generations. The entire Marshall Islands became a radioactive sacrifice zone, and the contamination persists today, 70 years later. The worst part? Scientists knew the yield calculations were uncertain. They detonated it anyway because they wanted to beat the Soviets in the arms race. Pride in politics trumped safety, and an entire region paid the price. Number 2. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. 40 years of medical betrayal. Between 1932 and 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted an experiment so ethically bankrupt it redefined medical misconduct. Researchers recruited 600 African-American men in Alabama, 399 with latent syphilis and 201 without. The men were told they were receiving free health care for bad blood. They weren't. They were human lab rats in an experiment to observe the natural progression of untreated syphilis, and the doctors never intended to cure them. Even when penicillin became the standard treatment for syphilis in 1947, researchers actively prevented the men from receiving it. They wanted to see what happened when the disease ravaged the human body completely. What happened was horrific. Syphilis destroys your nervous system, brain, heart, and bones. The men went blind. They lost control of their limbs. They developed dementia. At least 28 died directly from syphilis, and 100 more died from complications. Wives contracted the disease. Children were born with congenital syphilis. The study continued for 4 decades, through World War II, through the Civil Rights Movement, through the creation of modern bioethics guidelines. It only stopped in 1972 when a whistleblower leaked the story to the press, causing a public outcry so massive the government couldn't ignore it. The experiment didn't discover anything medically useful. Scientists already knew what untreated syphilis did to people. They just wanted comprehensive documentation, and they were willing to let hundreds of men suffer and die to get it. In 1997, President Clinton formally apologized. The damage, obviously, was already done. Number 3. Unit 731, Japan's Factory of Death. During World War II, the Imperial Japanese Army established a biological warfare research unit in Manchuria that functioned as a human experimentation facility disguised as a water purification plant. Unit 731, led by microbiologist Shiro Ishii, conducted experiments so brutal they make Nazi atrocities look tame by comparison. Prisoners, mostly Chinese civilians and POWs, were infected with plague, cholera, anthrax, and other diseases, then vivisected without anesthesia to observe the progression. Scientists performed forced amputations to study blood loss, froze limbs to test frostbite treatments, and subjected victims to pressure chambers until their eyes popped from their skulls. Pregnant women were infected with syphilis to study transmission to fetuses. People were hung upside down to see how long it took them to die. Prisoners were placed in centrifuges and spun until death. Flamethrowers and grenades were tested on live subjects tied to stakes. Conservative estimates put the death toll at 10,000 people, though the real number is probably much higher. But the experiments weren't just sadistic curiosity. Unit 731 weaponized biological agents and deployed them. They dropped plague-infected fleas over Chinese cities, killing an estimated 400,000 civilians. They poisoned water supplies with cholera and typhoid. They left contaminated food supplies for retreating Chinese troops. The biological warfare program was one of the largest and most sophisticated in history, and after the war, not a single member faced trial for war crimes. Why? The United States granted immunity to Ishii and his scientists in exchange for their research data. America wanted the biological warfare knowledge for its own program, so the perpetrators walked free, their crimes buried for decades. Number 4. The Demon Core, a plutonium ball that killed 2 scientists. In 1945 and 1946, a 14-pound sphere of plutonium-gallium alloy, nicknamed the Demon Core, killed 2 physicists at Los Alamos in separate criticality accidents. This wasn't a reactor meltdown or a bomb test gone wrong. This was pure human error, with a subcritical mass of fissile material, and both deaths were completely avoidable. The first victim was Harry Daghlian, who was conducting neutron reflection experiments alone at night, stacking tungsten carbide bricks around the plutonium core. He accidentally dropped a brick directly onto the sphere, instantly creating a critical mass. The core went supercritical, bathing Daghlian in a lethal dose of radiation. He saw a blue glow and felt a burning sensation in his hand as neutrons and gamma rays tore through his cells. He died 25 days later from acute radiation syndrome, his body essentially rotting from the inside. 9 months later, physicist Louis Slotin was demonstrating the same type of experiment to colleagues, using 2 beryllium-coated hemispheres as neutron reflectors. He held the top hemisphere over the core with a screwdriver, slowly lowering it while measuring neutron output. The screwdriver slipped. The hemispheres closed completely, and the core went supercritical again. Slotin saw the blue flash, felt a sour taste in his mouth, and knew instantly he was dead. He physically pulled the hemispheres apart with his bare hands, saving the 7 other people in the room, but absorbing a massive radiation dose. He died 9 days later in agony. The Demon Core was eventually melted down and used in a bomb test. Scientists call these experiments tickling the dragon's tail, a phrase coined by Richard Feynman. Both men knew the risks and did it anyway.